Good morning. Welcome again to Character and Values Education, PCG206. Today we will go on with the principles of character education. Basically, you had two specific readings for this lecture hour. One of them is the Principles of Character Education by Licona. He is an important figure in character and values education. We will read other readings from Licona in the future. And the second topic that we will address today is that teachers might serve as role models in character education and how this can be done. So let's start with principles of, let's start with principles of character education. Now, in the first reading, Licona states 11 principles which might be important for effective character education. First of all, Licona is one of the members in the Character Education Partnership Initiative in the United States. So he is a specialist in this area, and he has written many papers on this issue. So first of all, let's look at how he defines character education. According to Licona and the Character Education Partnership, character education is the deliberate effort by schools, families, and communities to help young people understand, care about, and act upon ethical values. So if you examine this definition carefully, you'd observe that character education is not only the responsibility of the schools. Somehow, families should also be involved in character education, and also other communities. When we say communities, it can be any group, non-governmental organization, or any other initiatives, or any other group in the society. So character education, according to this definition, should be understood as the responsibility of whole society and all the members in the society holding different roles. And why should all schools engage in character education then? According to Licona, schools should adopt some sort of character education program because a good character is needed to be a fully functioning and mature human. Remember, knowing yourself in the old philosophy, knowing yourself is an important obligation for humans to become humans, okay? So if, according to Licona, if we can develop a good character in schools, in our students, we will help or guide these students to become fully functioning, mature human beings. So it's a moral obligation to have such kind of a program. Secondly, schools can become conducive to better teaching and learning if students have good characters. So last week we talked about performance character and moral character as two components of a good character which complement each other. And remember then, we discussed that if students have both performance character and moral character at the highest extent possible, then these students would be more successful, but also they would be caring about the welfare of other people. So if you have good character education programs in schools, then we can help teaching and learning or education process advance better for our students. Thirdly, building a moral character in students is necessary for building a moral society. So character education has an ultimate goal to have a good, caring, responsible, or moral society. So each individual in school, as we call them students, as they grow up and become responsible citizens in the society, they will serve not only for themselves, but also for other people, including their families, their children, and according to their jobs, they will serve other people as well. So having a good moral character would help us to have good citizens in our society who mutually take care of each other. And this will provide a peaceful democratic society, hopefully. So how can we achieve these important goals? According to Licona, so he proposed 11 principles. Now, I'll go through these 11 principles in detail. I believe you read the paper, but let's go into details. So the first principle is as follows. Character education promotes core ethical values as the basis of good character. So, in a good character education program, first of all, we should have defined what important ethical values are. So, that's the important point here. So, core ethical values are, according to Likona, caring, honesty, fairness, responsibility, and respect for the self and the other people. And these are some of the values which we can list. Actually, which values are important values can be defined by the person himself or herself, the teacher, the education system as an institution, the society that we live in, or the groups that we feel a belonging to. So the definition of the core ethical values might change, but in Turkey, the Ministry of National Education have long defined which values will be examined and will be part of the character and values education program in which course curriculums. We talked about this issue last week. So there is a state-based definition in Turkey. So we will go through these important values in the future. But first of all, there should be an agreement on which values are important for character education, especially in the school. So schools which take character education seriously, first of all, should be able to explicitly name and publicly stand for these values, meaning make a list of values which are important for your program and support and defend or promote these values publicly in the presence of other people, meaning for the families, for the teachers at school, for other staff at school. So it should be first defined. Then such kind of a school promulgates these values to all members of the school community. Promulgate means to make widely known, okay? So it's not only the responsibility of the teacher to make a list of values and teach them or to try to help the students to acquire these values. It should be a wide spread understanding that these values are important not only for the teachers or the students, but also for the staff at schools, including administrators, secretaries, whoever are working at school context. And then such a character education program should be able to define these values in terms of behaviors. That's a very important principle, I guess. And I'm going to talk about this in the values education part, because values become observable or measurable, or values become manifest in our behaviors. It is not only lip service, lafta. Okay, it's not only lip service that we believe that certain values are important. We should somehow express these values in our behaviors so that they could have an effect on the society and other people and on ourselves. And these behaviors should be observable in school life. That's a very important principle. And such kind of a school models these values. It should build some models. These can be role models. These can be models for behaving. So it should become observable. And in such a school, which has a good character education program, these teachers or the staff should study and discuss these values, how they can be taught to the students, how they can be taught better perhaps, and so on, and uses these values as the basis of human relations in the school. So when we say character education for students, we somehow have an implicit understanding that character education is only an obligation for the student. No, character education is a process, and in this process, students as well as teachers and the administrators and all the other school staff are involved. So the interactions between the members of the school context should base on these values, okay? And such a school celebrates the manifestation of these values in the school and the community, meaning the students or the staff who regulate their behaviors in terms of these important values in their character education program should be rewarded for doing this, okay? And if necessary, schools which take character education seriously should enforce these values by holding all school members accountable to standards of conduct. So this is a very important starting point for an effective character education program. And look at these underlined lines, okay? Statements. Promulgation, defining in terms of behaviors, modeling these behaviors. So these three techniques, let's say, or the three steps in this process would help the students to know consistently what a value is, how it can be manifested in behaviors, and so on. So these can be, three can be, with the other ones, of course, can be categorized as the word-deed consistency. So teachers or the educators should not only endorse or verbally approve these values, but they should also show behavioral examples to the students so that there is a consistency between what is trying to be taught to students and what is behaviorally manifested. That's a very important principle according to socialization research, that when our words and when our behaviors become consistent, internalization of values become easier. The second principle that Likana proposes is that character must be comprehensively defined to include thinking, feeling, and behaviors. So these are typical three components of human manifestation of human mind. So we have thoughts, we have feelings, and we have behaviors, and all three components of human psychology should be involved in character education programs. The basic objective of an effective character education program, therefore, is to guide the students and all other members of the educational community, meaning all the members of the school, to tell the good from bad or right from wrong. First of all, everyone at school, including students, teachers, and all, should understand what's right and wrong and what's good or bad. Okay, there should be a consensus among the members of this community. And then the educational community also should value and cherish this knowledge of good and bad and right and wrong, meaning people should understand, not only understand, but should also feel good about themselves if they follow these important guiding principles. And finally, they should act in accord with those cherished values. If you look at these three steps, telling the good from bad, right from wrong means that people know, or that's the thinking component, people know what's right and wrong. And value and cherish this knowledge of good, bad, right, wrong means people internalize willingly, having an affection toward having these values. That's the affective component or the feeling component. And finally, if people know what's good, if people love to behave in good ways, then they will behave in good ways, okay? So higher understanding, therefore thinking, results in feeling, more commitment to a character education program or values, and then this will result in more value consistent behavior. So always value consistent behaviors will serve as the ultimate observable outcome of a good character education program. The third principle that Likona states is as follows. Effective character education requires an intentional, proactive, and comprehensive approach that promotes the core values in all phases of school life, all phases of school life. So school life is not only composed of what's happening in the classroom. School life goes on in the corridors, in the school buses, in cafeterias, and so on. So in all phases of school life, the character education program should be designed to help students acquire or cultivate the students with these important values. So schools need to assess or measure their moral involvement and how each component and actor in the school process might influence the character of the students. So teachers might influence discipline policy. This is not defined in Turkey by the school itself, but it is defined by the rules and regulations by the Ministry of Education. And the academic curriculum should also include some value-related or value education or character education-related objectives. Actually, that's the case in Turkey. All the courses or most of the courses starting from the 1st to the 12th grade, there are some objectives for cultivating students' certain values. And as for the curriculum issue, it's not only the curriculum in the books, it also includes extracurricular activities or issues to be handled, such as drug abuse, bullying, and academic dishonesty. Remember, Last week, we talked about certain school problems which might be handled by the school administration and the teachers, which can be observed in students. So these are called so-called bad or undesirable uh, uh, behaviors or school problems. So extracurricular activities should also contain these problem issues at schools, and character education programs should aim to solve these problems in the school life. Schools must develop plans and programs for character education intentionally. In lesson plans, annual lesson plans, actually, there are some objectives for the acquisition of different values in the curriculum, but there should be a program defined by the school other than these curricular activities in the classroom. And character education must be a natural ingredient of all aspects of the school life. So school should become a moral community, in other words, okay? That's the important point. The fourth principle is that the school must be a caring community. If we want our students to acquire some important values as part of their characters so that their actions become intentionally moral, they choose to behave in moral ways for the welfare of the other people, then there should be affection, there should be love, respect involved in this character education process. So the teachers, the administrators, and all the school community should provide a positive affective environment for the students so that the student feels loved, respected, cared for, and this might be helpful in developing skills and in internalization of these important values by the student. There must be a caring environment in the school which would help cultivating good character in the students, okay? So if students are treated badly by the administration or by the teachers, how can we expect these students to become responsible citizens who take care of other people's welfare, okay? So classrooms, corridors, cafeterias, playgrounds, school bus should all be considered as indispensable context for character education. So in classrooms, teachers are responsible for character education. In the corridors, everybody, including teachers, administrators, and other students, are responsible for character education. In cafeterias, the people working in cafeterias are responsible. In the playground, the ADs, these teacher ADs are responsible. In the school bus, the drivers are responsible for character education. So as you can understand, it is the character education should be taken very seriously, and it should become first a part of the character or a part of the objectives of the people who are responsible in the education programs, the adults, not the students at first hand. So values such as respect, responsibility, kindness, and fairness must be endorsed, verbally approved, in other words, in these contexts. So you try to teach people kindness, for instance, your students kindness at school, in the classroom as teachers. How can we expect these students to behave kindly to other students in the school bus? Okay, if the driver of the school bus is uninterested in what the students are doing to each other, okay, so they should also be involved. Every partner or stakeholder, let's say, should be involved in this character education program. The fifth principle is that to develop character, students need opportunities for moral action. So the first part of character education is to learn to understand, to have a conceptualization in your minds about what is good or bad, right or wrong. But if we wish that our students can successfully acquire these guiding principles as parts of their characters, then they need an environment in which they can manifest their important principles in their behaviors. This is what Likana means through saying students need opportunities for moral action. There must be opportunities for students to express respect, to express responsibility, fairness, and kindness in behaviors in the school context. So these teachers and all the staff in the school community should be very attentive first to the problems of the school community. First, these problems should be identified in different contexts of the school community. So this is partly the responsibility, I believe, of the counselors at schools. So you will become counseling um, teachers at schools, and your task should also include to identify problems in the classroom level, in the school level, and so on. So in the classroom, for instance, a problem might be that students make a lot of noise while the teacher is instructing. Okay, that's a big problem. So this is a violation of respect for the right of education for other students. This is a problem with understanding and becoming successful. So the morality, a moral character should be able to inhibit his or her needs to talk to other students or distract himself. Okay, that's a self-regulation problem in the school. And all the attention should be on the topic which is being discussed or lectured by the teacher. So classroom problems should be identified. In the corridors, for instance, it's possible that students might be littering, okay? So this is a problem with hygiene and cleanliness. So character education should take this problem as an important problem to address, and values such as cleanliness or health should be mentioned in the extracurricular activities. In the cafeterias, for instance, students may not fall in lines, sıraya girmemek, okay? That's a problem with respect, okay? That's a problem of irresponsibility as a citizen. How can we expect a student, when he or she becomes an adult, to respect the rights of other people in the traffic, in the social life, in the ongoing social life, if the student is simply cannot fall in line to buy something to eat in the cafeteria? So that's why it is important to understand character education as building a character for a fully functioning citizen in the society. In the playground, for instance, it's possible that students might fight when they have conflicts between each other. Or in the school bus, seat belts perhaps might not be fastened. It's important. It is a problem of violating the value of following the rules, for instance, okay, obeying the rules and regulations. So as you observe, character education program is a holistic approach to develop a good character in the student in all the aspects of the school life, so that this character later in adult life will become manifest in the behaviors of these students as fully functioning adults, so that they can become responsible citizens in the society. And of course, when we identify these problems, we should develop certain character education interventions, let's say, and in the classroom, in the corridors, in the cafeteria, playground, or school bus. These these programs should include guiding some guiding contents for the students to behave in the desirable ways, which should be praised and reinforced by the teachers or other school community members. So repeated experience with correct behaviors therefore should be provided. We all know that a good character cannot be internalized or developed in only with one experience. So it should be repeated continually, consistently. Okay, the sixth principle states that effective character education includes a meaningful and challenging academic curriculum that respects all learners and helps them succeed. So again, we observe that there is a mentioning of the performance and moral character as two complementary parts of the character education outcomes. And according to Licona, in a caring classroom and school where students feel liked and respected by their teachers and fellow students, students are more likely to work hard and achieve. So that's the performance character, working hard and having good achievement levels. That's performance character, which requires good self-regulation skills, responsibility, hardworking, and so on. But also, if people are following the rules, norms in the classroom or in the school, which are defined by the character education program, then people would feel ease or they will be at ease in interaction with other people, including teachers and other students. So if there are not some factors which block the student to become a good student because of behavioral problems by the students who lack good characters, then they can focus on their educational process and they can achieve better. So reciprocally, when students are unable to succeed at work or school, they are more likely to feel valued and cared about as people, as individuals. So this is the complementation of performance character and moral character. They go hand in hand. In this character education process, we should always keep in our minds that each individual is a unique individual. So there are idiosyncratic differences between students in terms of their skill levels, their abilities, interests, and needs. So these individual differences should be taken into account in the character education program as much as or possible. So it's not easy to design person-specific character education programs or to set, but it might become useful setting individual goals to develop a good character in each school. This is perhaps the responsibility of the counselors at schools. So classical instructional techniques can be used, including lecturing, like I do now, but they should be enhanced by adding cooperative learning, problem solving, experience-based projects, and themes integrating different subjects. So if, for instance, we're interested in cultivating curiosity as an important value in the character of the students, if students can be provided with an opportunity to integrate the knowledge they learn in the science courses and integrate this knowledge with the knowledge they learned in the Turkish literature courses or in other courses. So this is a stimulation for a curious mind. So if somebody is interested in scientific thinking, rational thinking as a student, which might be an individual difference as compared to other students, then this student will benefit much from this kind of a idiosyncratic objective setting. So as you can understand by now, character education is a serious process, and each individual should be treated as a unique individual as much as possible. It might not be very possible in the actual school life because there are hundreds of students in the schools, and this can be a resistance by the school administration to such kind of understanding. But teachers as a community in the school should do their best to design such kind of student-specific character education objectives. At least we should keep this in mind to the extent that we have the opportunity to design individual specific objectives, we should do it so that we respect all learners and help them to succeed. The seventh principle, as Licona states, is that character education should strive to develop students' intrinsic motivation. We talked about intrinsic motivation a lot, but let me remind you first that intrinsic motivation requires that external rewards are used at the least, okay? So if we always use external praise, if we always provide students with rewards and punishments as the consequences of their good or bad behaviors respectively, then the attribution by the student will be that I do this because people reward me, or the school administration or the teacher rewards me, or they punish me, okay? So this is a typical external attribution which would make the student to feel not responsible for his or her behavior. So we should, to the highest possible extent, have a character education program such that it induces the students an intrinsic motivation. So schools must develop intrinsic interest in the student for committing the important values. Less salient external rewards and punishments in time. So what does that mean? It means that, of course, as we saw last week, we are expected to verbally praise the good deeds of our students as it is proposed by the positive causal attribution training paradigm. But at the start of the program, rewards should always follow good behaviors. But in time, the amount of rewards should decrease, and the rewarding or the punishment should become unpredictable by the student so that the student should start feeling an intrinsic and internal interest in behaving in the good manners. So in learning, if we first want to shape the behavior, we provide continuous reinforcement. But then if we want the behavior to be strongly followed by or displayed by the student, then we should decrease the amount of rewarding and it should become random so that it cannot be predicted. This would start the student to find intrinsic interest in the activities. More external influence, because on behavior, results in external or situational attributions. So if students continually keep on saying that I do this because I receive rewards, I receive punishments, then we will observe no internalization, no acceptance of the values as part of the student's personality, in other words. So we cannot expect these students to behave consistently or in a stable manner in their life according to important values as part of their characters. So in an effective character education program, methods might include curiosity-based projects developed in cooperative student teams. So when students are given a topic as a team and they start working on these topics without much external guidance and rewarding, they will find intrinsic interest in doing this, and it will help to develop responsibility, getting along well with each other so that the project can be accomplished, or respect for the ideas of other people in the team. And of course, in such a project, curiosity will be reinforced intrinsically. And the method might include student project outputs, which might be framed to have positive impact on other people's lives. So if we can make students to develop some sort of social responsibility or social service projects, the output of this project will have some impact on other people's lives. So they develop a project, let's say, and then they implement this project with other students at school, or with, let's say, elderly people in different institutions and so on. And then they will observe that their project has important outcomes for making other people's lives better. This is the best reinforcement a person might receive because the product of his or her work will have some impact on other people. So this kind of rewarding is very legitimate and can help the students to have an intrinsic interest in the issues. And the effort will be rewarded by the product's outcome in the long run, therefore, and this kind of a project would work better than this kind of an outcome related reward would work better than simple praise. I'm not talking, when I say simple praise, I'm not talking about the type of praise as defined in the positive causal attribution training by Hampshire. I'm talking about aferin sana only, okay? So it has no meaning. It's the external reward, which would result in external attributions, hence no internalization of values as part of the character. The eighth principle by Licona is that the school staff must become a learning and moral community in which all share responsibility for character education and attempt to adhere to the same core values that guide the education of students. So this is not teaching a subject matter. This is teaching how to become a good person, a good human being, a citizen. So this requires taking it seriously. We are not talking about teaching the students the internal, let's say the area of triangles. Okay, this subject can be more technically handled by the teacher. But if we are talking about values or morality or good character, then everybody should have these values, this morality or character. So everybody should share this responsibility. They should also, the teachers, the administrators, all the school staff should follow the same values, okay? They should behave in accord with these values as well. That's the important point here. So all school staff is responsible and must be involved in character education in any relevant context. teachers, administrators, counselors, such as yourselves, okay, secretaries, cafeteria workers, playground ADs, bus drivers, all these people are responsible from providing good praise to the students' good behaviors or guiding them in acquiring important values and behaving in accord with these values in different contexts. So all of them should be educated, in other words, okay, including the counselors or other people. So the members of the school community, other than the students, must adhere to the same values in their daily routine. So if following the rules or obeying the rules is important for students as part of the character education program, then teachers should also follow the rules. Then bus drivers should also follow the rules in the traffic. Then cafeteria workers should also follow the rules while they're uh, interacting with students in the cafeterias. So they should not they should not sell anything to students who are not falling in line and trying to buy without falling in line. Okay, so that's a very important topic we should keep in mind. School staff must therefore regularly meet to discuss all issues concerning character education practice as individuals and as the school community. So, all school staff is responsible means there should be a consistency across different socializing agents. A socializing agent is any adult in the society who has the potential to teach certain important values of this society or the community to the new members of this community, the students in the school context, okay? If the teacher is trying to teach responsibility, but if the cafeteria workers are not behaving in responsible ways, this inconsistency would reduce the likelihood or the probability that the students will internalize the value of responsibility. So there should be consistency across all the members of the school community. So, which means they all should know the content of the character education program at school. That's a very idealistic picture. I know this, but that's the reality. And the members of the school community should all follow the same values in the character education program as they expect from their students. So this is called word deed consistency and reciprocal compliance, karşılıklı uyma. Reciprocal compliance is a very important principle in the socialization process of children as when parents become socializing agents. So reciprocal compliance means that if a parent sets a rule for the child to follow, when the child follows the rule, the parent rewards. When the child does not follow the rule, the parent somehow punishes socially, let's say, okay? But if the parent does not follow the same rule that he had set or she had set for his or her child, then this will be a great inconsistency for the child. My father expects me to behave that way, but I behave that way, but he doesn't behave that way. Then what's the truth? What's the reality? This inconsistency sort of creates a problem in the mind of the child because the child cannot understand what's actually right or wrong. Is it what his father says or what his father does? And what the father says and does, if it is not consistent, and if it is not consistent in such a way that the child is expected to behave in a certain way, but the parent is not behaving in the same way, then internalization decreases. So the same rule applies at school context. We don't have parents at schools, but we have other adults as socializing agents. If the teacher says that do not litter around, yere çöp atmayın, but if the teacher litters around, how can we explain this inconsistency to the mind of the young child or the student? So the same values, the same rules should be followed by all members of the school community, but not only by the students, so that we have consistency of what we say and what we do. And we have a consistency across different socializing agents. So this is, I know, a very idealistic picture. You will receive or you will face or confront great resistance from the members of the school community when you become counselors at schools. But I believe you should find a way to make people follow all these rules, okay? So start thinking about this problem in the real life context by now. So the ninth principle that Licona proposes is that character education requires moral leadership. Now, that's the important point about implementing such effective character education programs as I defined in this slide, okay? This is a problem issue. You should have to face this and handle it in a successful manner, but you will need support by administration or any leader who takes character education seriously at school. Okay, so character education requires moral leadership from both the staff and the students. The principal, another administrator at school, or a teacher coordinator must function as an effective leader in character education programs. So there should be some person at school, an adult, who is responsible from implementing and following the character education program. So this coordinator must function as an effective leader who convinces other colleagues at school, who makes or sometimes perhaps persuades the teachers to behave in certain ways, teaches them the right ways to do the things, and so on. And this person is expected to lead the effort for consistent, continuous, and effective character education program. So there should be a flag person carrying the flag at school. And this person must be responsible from planning, implementing, assessing the effectiveness, and reporting the results of the character education program. So we might have designed a character education program, we might believe it's a good character education program, but without data, no theory is good, okay? We all know this. So we should test the effectiveness of the character education program. And testing requires measurement. So there should be a coordinator, a leader who plans, who implements, who follows how the program goes on, and who objectively measures the outcomes or the objectives or actually the learning outcomes of the character education program, and who should be responsible from reporting the results of this character education program. Does it work? Did the students become better students who behave morally? Are the problems in the cafeterias, in the classrooms, in playgrounds reduced in time after implementing these character education programs? So this is typical science. This is typical applied science, as you learned it in your research methods courses. Okay. So, okay, let's stop here, and then we will go on with the second part